And before we get started, if I can just abuse the role I've been given briefly as substitute chair. It's also worth noting, for those of you who don't know, that in 2 or 3 days, David Hope Jones will be moving to another job. And it's our opportunity to say goodbye to David and to, in the usual fashion, I think, say thank you for the work he has done over the last 15 years in all things Malawi related. So I think we should say a round of applause for David before we win the format. So, in terms of the meeting itself, we have apologies from 38 people whose names are written down, and I won't repeat their apologies. You can see them for yourselves. We have also the minutes of the last meeting attached, which was on the 17th of January. And can I ask if there are any matters arising from the minutes, anything people want to comment on or correct? If not, do I have a proposer and seconder for those minutes to approve them? Just raise your hand, Heather, and anyone else?
Tracy.
Thanks, Tracy. Okay, in that case, yes, that's everything we've got to do regarding the minutes. In that case, if I can welcome our first speaker, Professor Iain Gillespie, who's the Principal and Vice Chancellor of the University of Dundee. We're very pleased to have Iain here today because he can speak for himself. I think we'll also kind of share a quick conversation with the other 6 University Vice Chancellors who we have, who are all online and all very pleased to say from Malawi. At our last meeting, we were joined by, I remember, a number of medical students from Dundee, and that connection between Dundee University and Malawi is in great part founded on medicine and medical science. So we're delighted to be hearing from the university's principal today, who's been a great champion for Malawi and who has been working on new university-to-university links. Professor Gillespie visited Malawi and signed, along with others who will be present tonight, the Blantyre Declaration with Malawi's 5 public universities, and that's a really exciting initiative for developing higher education links between Scotland and Malawi, working together collectively to transform lives and communities in both Scotland and Malawi. So if I can invite Iain to speak first and then to lead into the conversation with the others.
Well, fantastic, and thank you, Chair. It's great to be here, and it's also wonderful to see many of my Malawian colleagues online. I've got a set of slides. Are these loadable up? Yeah. I'm a firm exponent of PowerPoint being the enemy of clarity, but sometimes it has its utility. So let me just show you a few slides. So what I want to talk to you about is how we have tried to pull together with our Malawian colleagues a 10-year commitment to work around the key elements of higher education, so around education and learning, around research, and around engagement and enterprise, and universities being real anchors for the world that we find ourselves in. Let me just kick off a little bit with a few words about the University of Dundee. Many of you will know a fair amount about it, but let me on our principals. So principals tend to brag about their universities, and rightly so. Our university has around 17,000 students. If you are asked in the elevator, what's University of Dundee wonderful at? First in life sciences for every year for the last 14. And that's in the UK, beats Oxford, Edinburgh, Cambridge. And not just first in life sciences and research, but also first in turning that research into enterprise and creating value for us. Top 3 medical school continues to float around. Sometimes it's top, sometimes it's third, depending on how one looks at it. Top in Scotland for College of Art and Design. and something I'm particularly proud of, top in Scotland for social inclusion. So we are a university that thinks about how do we involve students and beyond in our mission. This is a representation of our current strategy. It's just launched last year now, truth intensive in the three areas that I've mentioned, with social purpose, making a difference at its core. And with priorities, obviously around the health side, population health and wealth, also climate action net zero, and equity and inclusion. So that's us. We launched during the course of last year a new Africa initiative. And the vision for an Africa initiative tries to pick up on turning our strategy, so research, education, empowerment, engagement, enterprise, into social purpose. And we want to do this in a way which builds on our existing partnerships, but develops them even further, so that the impact of what higher education sector is about is on those that really have most needs. And we are doing this under principles of co-design and co-delivery. So this is not intended to be some UK university coming along to our African partners and saying, we've got an idea, we want to do this work, we're here to solve all your problems. Because that's ridiculous. What we're trying to do is engage in a partnership so that together we can address our common problems. Why an Africa initiative? How many principles does it take to change a set of slides? The answer is more than one. No, can you give me a help? Move on to the next one. Very good. So why an Africa initiative? As I say, it's delivering across our strategy, our sense of social inclusion, our sense of purpose for social purpose. It's also looking to the future. We've all been involved in discussions for many, many years, some decades. I was first in Africa in the mid-60s, where we've been looking at Africa and African countries as being the future. Well, that's certainly, I'm glad to see, changing in many countries. And also from our student perspective, as a university like really all Scottish, all UK universities, quite dependent on having these international links. African students are part of our future. So ensuring that we are engaged in activities that meets the expectations of our student body is really key to our future, our common future. Also recognizing our past, like other institutions of our kind of age, our founding fathers partly made the money out of the transatlantic slave trade. And we've been honest about this. We've grasped our past, owned up to it. And there's nothing that we can do about what's happened in the past, but there's plenty that we can do about what happens in the future. So we want to be absolutely judged by how we act going forward, and more engagement with African universities, with African partners, is a key part of us making intellectual inputs to our common future and recognizing that past. And then, as I say, living in our values. I've talked about social inclusion. I've talked about social purpose. Dundee very much prides itself on being a values-led organisation. Will it work? There you go. I've managed to get it. So this brings me to our Blantyre Declaration, which the chair said we signed earlier this year. We co-developed this with my colleagues, the Vice Chancellors from 6 Malawi universities, 6 public Malawian universities, and they're all on the call, I think, for today. This is a pretty short statement of intention. And essentially, this creates a commitment for us to do that co-design and co-delivery. And it's very easy to talk about co-design and co-delivery, but it's much harder to make co-design and co-delivery actually work. Open sharing of knowledge. We've got huge resources that our Malawian colleagues can draw upon. And our Malawian colleagues have got huge resources that we can draw upon. Data, access to science, access to some of the really challenging issues, for example, around climate action like that. Professional development. We can all learn from one another. There is no one-way street here. This is us, all 7 partners, learning from one another in professional development. We've done this reasonably successfully with other universities. Equity and inclusion, and one of the things that's really impressed me around the Malawian piece is that desire to ensure youth empowerment, the role of women, and dealing with things like Sosten, who we're going to turn to in a second, who is looking to work with some of our colleagues on some of the gender-based violence and accusing women of witchcraft. We can work together on these and creating opportunities for youth and for the future. What have we done? Well, I'm just going to give you a quick vignette. Twinning our botanic gardens. Well, you might think twinning botanic gardens is a relatively small step, but it's a very tangible and very concrete step. You all know the Malawi cedar is perhaps the most threatened tree in the world, and Botanic Gardens of Edinburgh's got one. I think we've planted 3 at the moment. Of course, that's simple bragging rights, but really what we want to do is put the Botanic Gardens at the core of that community outreach as an education facility. And as many colleagues in the room will know, we're working to bring the Eden Project to Dundee at the moment. And that connectivity between the Eden Project, Botanic Gardens, and the future of sustainability is very key to us. A new scheme for doctoral training, which the University of Dundee will funded fees and funded stipends to develop a cohort of around 20 PG postgraduate students in steady state, with an absolute commitment to individuals coming to Dundee. The desire from my colleague in Malawi is to do full-time studies, but with a requirement for them to return. This is not about a brain drain. This is about creating the opportunities going forward. And then around various research and education opportunities, I've just picked 3 there where there are already significant engagement between our universities, our 7 universities. Not just Dundee with Malawi University or Dundee with 6 Malawi universities, but as 7 partners, equity coming forward in co-designing and co-delivering. Very quickly, we have secured some significant political support in Malawi for doing this, as well as the 6 Vice Chancellors that are on the call. The President of Malawi, His Excellency Dr. Chiotha, has gave us a huge honour of actually quite a long audience talking about some of the focal points, particularly around climate action, climate justice, which of course the Scottish Government is particularly focused on. And we held a round table with 6 Malawian cabinet ministers, and I had to say, if I'm going to be a little bit cheeky for a second, I would struggle to get 6 cabinet secretaries to come and talk to me about climate action and spectrum. So we'd like to be able to do that in Malawi. But it has given real intent. Of course, Dr. Chiotha, as you know, is the Chancellor of the public universities. So that bit buys in, not just from a president, head of a state perspective, but also ahead of university perspective. Future focus, we're in the process of launching the scheme. You saw perhaps earlier one of my colleagues, Paul Van Gardingen, who works very closely with Peter McAlevey, Professor McAlevey here, who is our Africa lead in the university, is helping put together at the moment the focus of that doctoral programme, promoting the principles, because the principles matter. We have to live them as well as state them, developing that footprint of research and teaching collaborations. And we will have a summit, I hope, with certainly Malawian ministers, and of course there'll be an invitation to parliamentarians here in Scotland as well, to pull together a research partnership summit in the summer. So that's where we are at the moment, Chair. If I may, through you, perhaps I could invite Sosten Chiotha. Sosten has been, a huge champion in helping pull this together across the the public universities in Malawi. He's Regional Director of Leadership for Environment and Development, as well as the chairperson of the National Arboretum and National Botanic Gardens. He's an incredibly well-recognized environmental scientist, and I'm delighted to say that I count him as a friend, and I hope you do too, Sosten. So perhaps we can stop sharing the slide and pass to Sosten, if we may.
Hello, Sosten, if you can hear us, over to you.
Thank you very much, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Thank you, Iain, for the wonderful presentation. I just wanted to highlight the overwhelming support from Malawi for this initiative from various sectors. And today we had the opportunity of meeting Honorable Nancy Tembo, who is the Minister of Foreign Affairs. But when this whole thing started, she was the Minister for Natural Resources and Climate Change. And so it was a small meeting that took place between University of Dundee, the Malawi government, knowledge translation centers like LEAD and AFIDIP. And so from that time, the momentum has been great. And indeed, today when we met her, she is very excited that there are already tangible outcomes from that initial genesis of these partnerships, and she wishes us well. And she says that although she's moved from Ministry of Natural Resources, she's even more better placed in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs to actually support this partnership. Also today we met Honorable Minister Patricia Kaliati, who is the Minister of Gender in Malawi. And basically one of the issues that Iain touched on is the gender-based violence through witchcraft accusations. And when she heard that there was quite a lot of work that had been done by professionals at the University of Dundee, in keeping with one of our pillars, she strongly feels that this partnership will help to actually consolidate the knowledge sharing. What are the gaps? And this is a hugely complex issue. But if we're talking about climate action, women are key. And if women are being accused falsely of witchcraft, then it undermines the overall development. She actually mentioned that women are key in education. And therefore, this process of inclusion will have to take women on board, but also to make sure that they are not being unnecessarily persecuted. So in a nutshell, the overwhelming support that was shown by the cabinet ministers that you met in August last year continues with the cabinet ministers that we met today. In addition to that, we also met with the officials from the National Planning Commission, and they too are very excited because they work with the universities, they work with the private sector, and of course they delivering the agenda of Malawi government, and they feel very strongly that this partnership has come at the right time. So all has been said. We are very grateful from the Malawi side, and I'm sure my colleagues will specifically focus on academia, but I wanted to say that this
Shall we move to address?
Yeah, with Sosten's connection. So
Yeah, so we've lost Sosten for a second, but I can see the connection to a number of my Vice Chancellor colleagues is working. So Perhaps I can just turn to colleagues in turn, just to just say a brief couple of words to the assembled body here. And I'm just going to try and work on what I see on the screen. Emmanuel, I think you're first, so it'd be helpful if colleagues, you could introduce yourselves and maybe make a comment. Emmanuel, over to you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ian and the chairperson and the August House. We look at this as a great privilege and special occasion where us as Malawian universities can speak to you. In particular, right now, as you might be aware, Malawi is one of the countries where our per capita incomes are very low. I think hovering around $1 to $2 per day per person, which is very low. So it's one on the very low age, and therefore universities are called upon to do more, to transform our economies into knowledge economies. Our universities are called upon to be very impactful to the society, to make a difference within the shortest possible time. And Malawi has put up a blueprint, Malawi 2063 document, a roadmap, where issues of human capital development, issues of science technology are very key. So we therefore need to develop this. We need strong partnership with universities like University of Dundee for the good of the poor people. And we're called upon to do that. So, and to us, this is one of the first kind, because we have benefited from the Malawi Scotland partnership or Scotland-Malawi partnership over time, but it has been piecemeal. And now all the public universities go together and also lining up within a declaration, Blantyre Declaration, a 10-year plan. And we think this is a very sustainable way. And with political support, as has been highlighted by our president, who is Chancellor of Universities, supporting this initiative, we do think that this initiative is going to bear fruits for our universities, but also for particularly our people in Malawi. Therefore, we look forward to your continued support, which you've been supporting us already. Most of our staff have been trained in Scotland, but it has been, as you said, piecemeal and not really consolidated. So this is to us a huge opportunity. Let me stop here to give opportunity to my colleagues, but thank you very much for having us here in this meeting and listening to me. Thank you. My name is Emmanuel Kaunda, Vice Chancellor for the Longo University of Agriculture and Natural Resources.
Thank you, Emmanuel, and thank you for introducing yourself at the end and saving me the need to do that. Shall we, I saw that Address Malata, the VC of Malawi University of Science and Technology, is also in line. Address, over to you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chancellor and honorable members. I want to thank you very much for inviting us to be part of this session, and indeed to agree with my colleague Emmanuel that we are delighted that we can work together with University of Dundee, and indeed the fact that whatever is the aspiration of the university there, the three pillars really matches very well with the Malawi 2063. And also, maybe in addition, the Malawi Education Sector Plan focuses on access, quality, and governance. And we do think that this opportunity will help us as universities in Malawi to make a contribution, significant contribution to the aspiration of the Ministry of Education. And in particular for the Malawi University of Science and Technology, we are delighted because our mandate as a university, although young, developed in 2014, is to focus on science, technology, and innovation, but across the board, we do actually think that we will have an opportunity to benefit from the relationship. The Blantyre Declaration outlines significant issues that need attention. And we like the fact that the university there did not design anything on their own. We are co-designing everything. We are looking at research opportunities. We are looking at capacity building. The universities in Malawi, and for my university at Malawi University of Science and Technology, requires capacity building. But we also know that there are some opportunities for the university there to benefit from what we're doing. So this partnership is a true partnership. We're looking forward to the support, your support as honorable members, and we also want to commit here that we will do all we can, that this partnership should not just be on paper, but it should be practical. But more importantly, the partnership should impact people's lives. What difference can we make in this partnership is the question we're asking, and that's what we want to achieve. Let's make a difference to the people that we serve in our nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Adrice, and very much it's making a difference. That's what we're all about, our joint, our combined social purpose. That's what Blantyre Declaration is focused on. I know the chair is going to start poking me in a couple of minutes if we don't get through everyone, but I do want to give all the Vice Chancellors at least a chance to say hello here. Perhaps we can pass to Nancy next, Nancy Chiotha, Nancy to VC at Malawi University of Business and Applied Science. Nancy.
Thank you very much for recognizing me as to talk to you, honorable members, as well as the Vice Chancellor. As it has been pointed, I'm Nancy Chiotha, the Vice Chancellor for Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences. And in our institution, we are focusing on business, the IT, as well as the sciences and the engineering. And as the other Vice Chancellors have pointed out, right now we are at the critical point of implementing the Malawi Vision 2063, as well as what we are calling the National Education Sector Implementation Plan. And some of the things that have been highlighted there includes the research, includes how we can make Malawi independent, independent in the sense of being able to develop from where we are to at least an area where we can say that we are starting developing. And as universities, we are at a very critical point that we have to contribute with everything that we have towards the achievement of this Malawi Vision 2063. And therefore, the coming of this particular declaration, Blantyre Declaration, and the areas that have been highlighted there, for us as an institution, we have taken it as an opportunity that we will be able to work in collaboration with all the other universities, including the University of Dundee, plus the support that is there, the partnership, the collaboration is going to help us to develop the capacity that is needed for us to be able to contribute to the Malawi Vision 2063. And as we are contributing to the Malawi Vision 2063, we are also contributing to the SDGs and so on. And therefore, we feel very honored that we are part of this particular declaration, and we pledge our support that we are going to work with the University of Dundee plus the other universities just to make sure that this partnership will not fail, it will work. And for us, we are so happy, as Professor Malata has pointed out, that we are working together. We have also a voice. We can also contribute. We can also do something for our own university, but also globally. And therefore, it gives us great pleasure. It gives us great excitement that we are in this particular collaboration, and we will be there to work together. Thank you very much. Let me stop there.
Thank you, Nancy. And I'm getting poked now by the chair to try and wrap up. So if I could just very, very briefly get comments from my other colleagues. First of all, my old friendly colleague, John Saka, Vice Chancellor of Azusa University. John.
Good evening. Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure to participate in this engagement. I just wish to observe this is a very creative initiative, given that all the 6 public investors are involved, particularly so at this critical time when we have been called to support rather to contribute to the operationalization and the realization of MW 2063. All our strategic plans have been aligned appropriately to this. And one observes that unless you can have south-south to north partnerships, which will help us appreciate exchanges of experiences to contribute to the wealth creation or growth of our population, it will be out of order. And therefore, we as Mzuzu University, which is a comprehensive university, we find this very timely, and we look forward to benefiting from the interaction amongst ourselves. I wish to say that I'm John Saka, Vice Chancellor of Mzuzu University. It's a great honor, and we believe that the Scottish government will indeed continue to work with our government here in Malawi for the good of our people through exchange of high level of knowledge to support improved livelihoods amongst the particular people in Malawi.
Thank you, John. It's very good indeed to see you again, and I look forward to.
So thank you very much, Ian, and thank you very much.
Very good. Shall we move now to Samson? Samson Sergidu. Samson is a VC at the University of Malawi. Samson, over to you. You still with us, Samson? You're muted. Well, perhaps Samson will come back to us. Let's pick up on the line, Mac Malawi.
Hello, Ian.
Hello.
Hello, Ian. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Thank you very much, Ian and honorable members, for giving me this opportunity. Indeed, this is an exciting initiative for us as a University of Malawi, and my name is Samson. I'm Vice Chancellor of the university. For us, we are excited, particularly with the collaborative nature that this partnership is taking. The collaborative research activities that we will be undertaking in our niche areas as we strive to contribute to the Malawi 2063 vision, as it has already been mentioned by my colleagues, Vice Chancellors in the public universities of Malawi. Particularly, our main contribution is that of human capacity, and it's exciting that within this collaboration, we have an issue of the PhD training. We are excited with that. As a University of Malawi, of course, we do have several niche areas, considering that we are basically a diverse institution. We do train staff in law, economics and governance, natural and applied sciences, education, humanities and social sciences, arts, communication and design. But what is extremely important in this partnership through the Blantyre Declaration is the aspect of co-creation. It's not going to be one way, but we will be co-creating ideas together. So we are extremely excited with that. And we look forward to a fruitful implementation of the partnership. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Samson, and sorry to be a little bit funky on my transfer to you. Then last but by no means least of the 6 Vice Chancellors online, Professor Mac Malawi. Mac is Vice Chancellor of Kamuzu University of Health Sciences. And of course, Kamuzu University of Health Sciences is part of the public system that Dundee's worked a lot with, including colleagues in the room at the back there. Mac, over to you.
Thank you, Ian. Allow me to start with, on a lighter note, I'm an alumnus of University of St. Andrews, Scotland. So we used to make fun of University of Dundee.
Well, you'll remember, Mac, of course, that the University of Dundee used to be part of the University of St. Andrews.
Absolutely.
And my colleague ended the year I first went to Africa, so you can decide what that means.
My apologies for the poor lighting. We've got the power issues in where I live, which is a normal thing for Malawi. But just to say that indeed, as Kamuzu University of Health Sciences, as you all know, is the biggest health training institution in Malawi, which trains most of, or rather the only institution that trains doctors, pharmacists, dentists in Malawi, and we have a huge role to play in the provision and training of healthcare professionals in Malawi. And as my colleagues have talked about, all we talk about in Malawi now is Malawi 2063, and we've put huge responsibility to undertake to train healthcare professionals for the 21st century and beyond. And we've got a huge responsibility in that regard to make sure indeed that we deliver to the nation. And as we talk about in Malawi, a self-reliant nation by 2063, we always say you cannot talk about self-reliance without talking about self-reliance in health to start with. So we have a huge responsibility to make sure that indeed we train healthcare professionals of the 21st century and beyond. And as you all know, that we have a new dental school which has been supported by the Scottish government, and it's been in existence for only the past few years. And indeed, we intend to deliver to make sure that indeed this dental school that is new of its kind in Malawi delivers. So when we are in this Blantyre Declaration under the initiative of the University of Dundee, we are privileged and delighted to actually provide the much needed training and healthcare provision that Malawi needs. So we are hungry for capacity building in Malawi in all the different healthcare professions that we have in Malawi: nursing, health scientists, doctors, pharmacists, and and dentists. As such, we're delighted and we look forward to this partnership, and that indeed we do anything we can do under the sun to make sure that this partnership is of mutual benefit to the institutions in Malawi and Scotland. So thank you for this initiative. We're delighted and we are privileged, and we promise that to deliver and provide the much needed platform for training and healthcare provision in Malawi. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mike. And I know Peter Mossy, who's here has led so much of the work from the Dundee Dental School, working together with the Glasgow Dental School. We very much appreciate what you've had to say. Chair, I wonder if I can just quickly move on to a quick report on what's happening on the Cooperatives College and the link with the University of Dundee. And I think we've got Ali Longdon, who's the Director of Learning and Teaching at Cooperatives College. There she is. To tell us. So, Ali, why don't I pass over to you?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as Ian said, I'm a Director of Learning and Teaching at the Cooperative College, and I'm here with my colleague Jackie Thomason, who's the Director of Operations and Business Development, and Chris Jardine, who's one of our trustees. Just for those, I don't expect everybody to be aware of the Cooperative College, so really briefly, we're actually an educational charity that was established over 100 years ago in 1919. What I would say is though that our mission, our overall aim has not really changed in that time, in that it's really all about empowering individuals and communities to build a fairer world, really, which, you know, our connections now with University of Dundee, it really feels it's a good fit, because we speak about the social purpose and being a values-led organisation, and that's exactly what we see ourselves as. Our work is underpinned by the cooperative values and principles, and we also very much talk about our cooperative learning approach, which is all about co-production, co-facilitation, co-design, everything that you've all been talking about this evening. We're now a remote working organisation with staff across the UK, from here in Scotland down to Cornwall, although we do have an office base in Manchester. We work globally though, we're a small organisation, but we're doing work across all continents, across the world. And although we've done many things over the years, we've now we've sort of distilled it down to 4 key themes in our strategy, which actually are very much aligned to those of sort of Malawian partners and the University of Dundee. So very briefly, their cooperative learning, which I think we've said what that is already, thought leadership, very much that collaborative research, international cooperative development and youth empowerment. So I will very briefly just talk about 2 areas of our work that I think are relevant to this evening and what has brought us here this evening as well. And the potential that they were separate, but we now see the potential links for them, for the connectedness to them. So as a college, we've not been seeking degree awarding powers, and we're very much, our strategic aim was to develop partnerships in higher education, which is where it comes in with the University of Dundee, because at the moment we're working on co-producing a range of 20 credit master's level modules on cooperation. The modules will be delivered online to support accessibility to students around the world, and will be on a micro-credential basis, meaning that those qualifications, so those modules will be studied as standalone modules to support continued professional development, executive education, but they'd also provide a pathway to a postgraduate certificate in cooperative studies. We're also sort of planning to introduce a scholarship programme sort of with Dundee, again to support sort of inclusion and accessibility to anybody, wherever they are in the world. That's one of the areas of work, that link with the University of Dundee. And so the reason why we're here today as well is that we're also project managing a major international cooperative development project in Malawi, which is funded by one of the largest retail cooperatives, Central Co-op. So our head of international partnerships, who couldn't be here today, Sarah Aldred, she leads on this work. And so together with MFICO, the Malawian Federation of Cooperatives, we're working with farmers and growers at that grassroots level to develop existing and new cooperatives. So it's all about building stronger cooperatives and stronger networks, both in Malawi and globally as well. And we're very much using that cooperative learning approach of the co-design, co-facilitation, co-production to share knowledge and share best practice between sort of the farmers and across cooperatives. And I should also mention as well, the link is like increasing the trade links, and that now the Central Co-op is selling and promoting the Malawian products grown by the farmers to their customers. And it's a proportion of those sales from those products that are helping to fund this Malawi partnership. And what I'd say is one of the cooperative principles, there's 7 of them, but the 6th one is cooperation among cooperatives. And that's what we see this partnership is a really good working example of, because it's all about the sharing of knowledge and resources to result in more sustainable agricultural practices and climate action, so both strengthening that cooperative movement in Malawi and globally. And I think most importantly of all, like some of the people speaking this evening, the Vice Chancellor are talking about making a difference to people's lives. What it seems is making that difference to smallholder farmers, to improving their livelihoods, which is, what it's all about as well. So we're not sure yet potentially what the links between the 2 initiatives are, but it feels that there's real scope and potential for there to be those links. We are already in early conversations with other academic partners in other countries regarding the postgraduate certificate with the University of Dundee. So it'll be really interesting to see how things develop and emerge over the next year or so with Malawi, and see where potential links could be there as well. So yeah, so that was it. Well, very whirlwind fast. Nobody to be too fast, but if anybody wants any more information, just get in touch with us. Just be around later.
Thanks so much, Ali. Chair, we've talked at you, but over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it's all been very useful and interesting to hear, and really I just want to have a chance for a conversation as well. If I ask David to watch who's putting their hand up online, and I'll look at the room here, please just either show a hand in put up the yellow hand symbol, or just let me know. We've heard quite a lot about cooperation between different academic institutions between Scotland and Malawi. Please feel free to ask anyone, or in general, what you think that means, or raise any other issue whatsoever. And I see one hand going up now. Peter.
Hi, Peter West, Consul of Malawi in Scotland, previously Chief Officer at Strathclyde University, and in the first decade of the century, our Strathclyde Malawi Millennium Project, led in Strathclyde by Dr. Morse and my left here, engaged particularly with the Polytechnic and with Mzuzu University, and with Kamuzu College of Nursing, whose principal, Address Malata, has just appeared in the new guise as the Vice Chancellor of the University of Science. So she is a practical link between the all, and I've already said the principal will be very glad to meet with Dundee University representatives and share our successes and our failures. But in 2010, there was the collective initiative funded by the Scottish Government, administered by David and the partnership, send Scottish academics to work for a semester in Malawi, and to send Malawian academics to work for a semester, sometimes longer, in Scottish universities, which was, I thought, a tremendous success. And my question to the Principal of Dundee is, have you any thoughts of widening this excellent initiative to engage with other universities, perhaps get funding from the Scottish Government? I'm thinking particularly of the University of Glasgow, whose principal was in Malawi this year, and you mentioned earlier the excellent collaboration between Dundee and Glasgow over the dental school. So that is my question to you. Would you be open to widening the initiative to including one or two of the other leading Scottish universities who work in Malawi?
I'll ask Iain to respond to that, but if any of the other people who've spoken from other universities want to chip in, then please just let us know.
The one-word answer is yes. The slightly longer answer is we want to make real the Blantyre Declaration and do specific and real things, and then look to build on that with other partners, but also with other funders. And we've been beginning conversations around where some philanthropic funding might come from. So yes, but one step at a time, I think, is my straight and honest answer, Peter.
Sarah.
Sarah Black, MSP for Lothian. I found all the presentations actually quite exciting tonight. As somebody who's a former academic, to be able to reach out and have that partnership and co-design approach, I think is absolutely crucial. And to see the number of Malawian universities involved, I think is actually quite inspiring. Are you doing research on what the impacts are? Because the ambition is fantastic, and in other cross-party groups like the Fair Trade one, Malawi regularly comes up in terms of producers and the impact they have. So will we get feedback, you think, on what the impact is? Because just looking at what you're talking about through the declaration, it does sound fantastic, and a really interesting model potentially for other universities in Scotland. Thank you.
I'll bring in Iain. I'm conscious he's in the room, but there are other universities online, so please just let David know if you'd like to come in. But Iain, on you.
Again, the short one-word answer is yes. So our plan is to have a summit of the 7 universities this summer, looking at what is it we are tangibly now moving into, if you like, in phase 1 of implementation of our declaration. And there's no way that we're going to be able to do everything that we would like to do or could do, but as I just said to Peter, we want to take one step at a time. And as part of that conversation in the summer, how do we measure the impact, and how do we then report on that so that we can scale success will be a key element. So we're delighted to keep this group informed of progress. But as I've said already, we're being pragmatic, we're being realistic, and the important thing is to get things moving and talk about how we scale at the same time, rather than, if you like, put the cart before the horse.
Heather.
Thank you. I'm Heather Kuby, the chair of the Scotland-Malawi Partnership, but I'm also a fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, which, as many of you will know, but maybe not all our Malawian colleagues know, is Scotland's academy for all dimensions, unlike, for instance, the Royal Society in London, which is only science based. Now, the RSE actually has an Africa committee on which I sit. And I was thinking that this wonderful opportunity that we've heard about, and I agree with Sarah Boyack that it's exciting and needs to involve partnerships going in different dimensions. So while the cooperative college is talking about the elements of inclusion, there is also the need to cross partnerships across the more senior academic people too. And as Mopatso Mupando can attest to, RSE involvement is a useful adjunct to academic careers. I would be extremely happy to help advance that, and hopefully could work with Iain, but maybe you'd like to say a few words about what that might involve for us taking a partnership that's tangential, but might increase what is already being set up under the Blantyre Declaration. Thank you.
So I've had a preliminary discussion with John Ball, the new president of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, and the question that we've been wrestling with here is really how does the RSC work more closely with the leadership of Scottish universities? And I would argue that that's probably been suboptimal in the past. So we've tended to look at the RSC, as a fellow myself, as that collection of fellows having that important independent academic voice. But certainly I'd like to, and I think John's open to this, but it's down to the council of the RSC to decide how to do this, to work more closely on common issues. So Heather, I think it'd be a great conversation to have. At the moment, I don't have an answer to the question. I mean, I would come back to the perhaps one step at a time as being a little bit lacking in confidence, but not trying to do everything at once is important. So how we sequence this in a sensible way, and my answer to Sarah and to Peter as well, I think is a key thing. So that we have a sustainable partnership, particularly a sustainable partnership with our Malawian colleagues, so that for us at the moment, the 7 universities can co-design what that does. And I think there's that same principle of co-design would need to work across academy engagement as well. Very open to that conversation.
Well, thank you. That was a very useful, I think, practical suggestion for a way forward. Does anyone else want in? And I should stress this, is anyone online? You don't have to be speaking on behalf of a university. Just looking for anyone who wants to raise any comments. John Mason, MSP.
Thanks. I mean, my question was, in Scottish universities, we hear a lot about spin-offs and research leading into maybe a business startup, and then that goes on and grows, and that benefits the Scottish economy. And I just really wondered if that kind of thing was happening in Malawi, either through the partnership or just independently. Is research in Malawi leading to businesses or other practical outputs?
Perhaps if I can address that does anyone from the Malawian universities want to come in? It's probably addressed to you.
Perhaps address Malata, if you're there, the question address. Would you be able to answer that?
Can you just come again on the question? I think I heard the first part of the question, not the last.
Go again, John.
Sorry. Yes, in Scotland, we hear a lot about research in universities then leads on to businesses starting up or other practical outputs. And I just wondered if that was also happening or could happen in Malawi.
Yes, that's also happening in Malawi. So the universities in Malawi now are looking at working with private sector and industry to find out what are the needs there, and then using that opportunity for also young graduates to come up with businesses or ideas for entrepreneurship. So it is happening, but as you know, the Malawi economy is very small, and then private sector is also very small. So we're doing as much as we can, but we think that in this interaction, we can also learn lessons on how the universities there have done it and done it well over the years. So this is something that is happening, a lot of interaction now with private sector, industry, but there is a very small private sector, as you can imagine. So we know that universities there do much better than we do. And so we do also think that we can take this opportunity to learn, but this is something that all public universities in Malawi are doing now. We're linking very well with private sector, but we're also pushing our graduates now into coming up with industries or businesses. But the universities are also moving into the same direction. Malawi University of Science and Technology has got an industrial park with the same purpose. It's a big investment by government of Malawi, and we're now starting to come up with products from the university. So thank you very much for that question. And my colleagues, in case want to add to what I've said, thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Just to add, I think I want to agree with Address. I think we are just as we're coming out of a meeting with the Minister of Education, and one of the things that came out very clearly was the same, which Address is saying, that they want to see more, whatever we are doing now as public universities, but they want to see this to be more scaled up. And like Address said, the industry is small, and we're thinking that even the university here will be called on to be creating the whole industry now, because the economy is small and there's huge challenges. So this is a big opportunity, just to echo what Address has said, where we can see how we can learn our colleagues from and have done this. So it is a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. There's somebody else online, I think.
Denny Alina.
Hello, everyone, and good evening. I'm Demi Alema. I'm from the University of Dundee. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there in person because I'm in the US attending a conference. It has been a fantastic presentation, and well done to the Scottish-Malawi partnership. My question is very similar to the previous question, and I want to ask about what is being done to commercialize research results, and also if there is an impact study on all these research and partnerships that is being done with Scotland and Malawi, and also if there are any plans to spread this partnership or spread this type of impact to other countries on the African continent.
Well, I think I'll address that one to your own university principal first. So if you want to come out.
Hi, Debbie, good to see you. I hope you're having a good time in the US. So let's take the last question first. As I think you're aware, but to make colleagues here aware, I started off by saying we have launched a new Africa initiative, and there is a particular focus on Malawi that we've talked about with the 7 universities engaged. But our Africa initiative is not only an initiative with Malawi. So, for example, Professor Peter McAlevey, who's our Africa lead, and I are about to go to Ghana because we have a very strong relationship around drug development, drug discovery with Ghana, and we're hoping, together with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Wellcome Trust, to set up Africa's first drug discovery initiative of their own, with very close training there. We also have very close relationships with, don't worry, I'm not going to list every country, with Nigeria, and Peter, we're about to launch a dual law degree with a University of Lagos. So it's not just Malawi, but Malawi is a particular focus for some of the reasons that I've mentioned. Are we looking to learn from what we do and from what others do? Absolutely. If our colleague Paul van Gardingen had time to speak, and he probably doesn't, but had he had time to speak, he's out there with colleagues in Malawi at the moment. Paul, working with Peter and other members of the university, have been looking at what the productivity of these various partnerships has been. So, for example, the UK GCRF money, the Global Challenge Research Fund money, we can see some examples of some universities that have done brilliantly well in that co-delivery, co-design, and published lots of papers and given real impact to universities working together, and others that have essentially seen it as a block of money to do their own research. So there are things one can learn from these initiatives. And as Sarah mentioned earlier, we're very keen to learn that. But I'm not going to name and shame the university has done badly here. I'll do that over a Malawi gin and tonic later.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. In that case, is there anyone else who wants to come in virtually? I should say, as John points out, if you don't happen to be sitting near a microphone, don't let that put you off. Just move towards the microphone where there's a spare seat. So, does anyone else, either online or offline, want to come in with any final comments? In that case, thank you very much. That was a really useful discussion, and hopefully will lead to even more connections being forged and developed between these institutions in the future. We come on the agenda to any other business. There's two or three I can mention. Another, please indicate either online or in the room if you wish to raise any other issues. Thanks to the MSPs for attending the Scotland-Malawi Partnerships October 22 UN SDGs exhibition. Congratulate also Barry Klassen on his MBE investiture, which is tomorrow, I believe. As I mentioned briefly earlier on, Stuart Brown will succeed David Hope-Jones as cross-party group secretary, and that's because he's moving on from his job with the Scotland and Malawi partnership after, am I right in saying, I said earlier, 15 years, that was a guess. So I think we have all appreciated on the cross-party group. I've certainly appreciated as an MSP, and before that, during my time as a minister, I've certainly appreciated the work that has been put in by David into this body and into the many other groups in Malawi and in Scotland that he's worked with. It's been a real success, and wish him well for the future again. That brings us nicely into the fact that if you wish to say hello to Stuart and say your congratulations or your goodbyes or whatever the word is, David, then as I think has almost become a tradition, there is a bottle of Malawi gin and tonic available at the door somewhere. Not available to those online, I'm afraid, can't be done virtually. But that really brings the proceedings to halt. Other than David wants to come in briefly, yeah.
Do apologise. Sorry, one more AOP, if I may. Firstly, just with regards to the cholera situation in Malawi, that we're keen to recognise that it's a difficult time for Malawi. We're keen as a group to extend our thoughts and concerns to Malawi. Very sadly, over 825 deaths so far, over 25,000 cumulative cases. And just to say, Scotland, all of us are watching very closely to the situation in Malawi and giving all possible support. Just before the meeting started, I received a message from the Scottish Government, and they were keen that it was registered here, and that was that an earlier allocation of £236,000 that had gone to UNICEF for an oxygen generation plant has, at the request of UNICEF, been reallocated to support the cholera response. Under this proposal, UNICEF Malawi will use these funds for health systems strengthening, purchasing urgently needed supplies that are both relevant to the ongoing COVID-19 response, but also the cholera outbreak. So we're pleased to welcome that. And in fine tradition, in addition to Malawi Gin Tonics, two very quick plugs. As part of the cholera response, on the 26th of January, the Scotland Malawi Partnership has its water forum. The PS for water in Malawi will be joining that forum to talk specifically about the cholera situation. So do recommend that. And finally, the 15th of January, we've got a health forum, and the presidential cholera task force will be addressing that group specifically to talk about what Scotland can do to respond to cholera. Thank you very much, Chair.
Well, that's a very important note on which to end, and I'm sure that organisations represented at this meeting will want to do everything they can to work to be helpful in dealing with that very difficult situation that Malawi has been facing. Can I merely now thank all our speakers, everyone who's taken part. I think it's been really fascinating to see the links that have been building between academic institutions, and great hope that that will continue in the future. So thank you very much to all who contributed, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed.